What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on Second City Gridiron. Follow at Second City Gridiron for all your Bears news. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you don't already, like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Get the audio-only versions on Spotify, iTunes. Do the same. Hit that like button. Tell some friends. Look up the great articles. Our cohorts write up as well at Windy City Gridiron, at WC Gridiron on social media. I'm Evan Mack at the real Evan Mack, joined as always by my co-host. He just sashayed his way in here. He would never spit on an opponent, and he loves that new Justin Bieber. He is at Ross Read on social media. It's Ross Read, folks, with our first Bears loss recap of the season.
Yes, we get the at least we get the honor of coming behind Lester and JB. Shout out to those guys.
That's
I'm pretty
right.
sure it was a somber show, but if I know JB, he also put a little bit of an optimistic spin on it. So hopefully we can carry that same tune a little bit. It's a long season. We got 16 more of these things, so let's hope it gets better.
A lot of games left. It is only just the beginning. And as Ross touched on, excuse me, we are. It's not all negative over here. We got to have some of the positives, but we will mostly be talking about that loss to the Vikings on Monday Night Football at their home opener. All the good, the bad, the ugly, and then talking about looking ahead to the Lions game and what to expect in terms of that. And then, of course, NFL storylines along the way, too. A just legendary Sunday night game. We talk about the Packers and Lions going at it, and Packers looking very dominant against them this past Sunday. And, of course, the champs staying the champs against the Cowboys. We'll dive in all that and what to look for in week 2 of the NFL. But first, let's talk about it, Ross. 27-24 was the final. I will say the positive note I have, Ross, is that I was at that clip show at the Salt Shed. So I did not have to watch that terrible, terrible fourth quarter or any of the game for that matter. I just zipped through it later on. You would have loved it, but, I digress. We'll talk about that later and how legendary those dudes are. So it's like where to begin with the Bears, and certainly it was a tale of 3 different sort of quarters into that fourth. I'd say tale of 2 halves for sure. And that cliche that comes to mind is it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And boy, was that the case with the Bears. I mean, the things that you and I certainly look for are Caleb Williams and how he's going to progress this season and how he was going to look in game 1. Pretty typical. It looked like not much different from last year. When he had early success leading to that touchdown, it was just check down Charlie, throwing to DeAndre Swift, getting it down to a running back. A nice tightrope catch by like Odunze, which showed some accuracy and some zip from Caleb Williams. But then he got that rushing touchdown, which Ross called last week, which was dynamite. And you were like, all right, here we go. If this is the offense, this is how it's going to be. Second quarter started showing some pocket presence. I feel like making the right reads. He started out 10 for 10 passing in that quarter. But what was great was seeing him make the smart plays early on. He was extending plays, but not losing yardage. But there were just the penalties started early for the Bears in that offensive line. Darnell Wright getting called for a couple. The false starts, that was a recurring theme. I know Ben Johnson and company were just furious. And I get it's an opener in short yardage, but that call to go for it, just looking at that first half with 8 minutes to go, not kicking an easy field goal, was not the right call, clearly, when you look at the outcome as well. Some risky escapes by Caleb. We started to see sort of those kind of bad habits, holding on to the ball too long, maybe. Just he's lucky where it's not a turnover and losing yardage. I like the Zacchaeus connection. I think he had like 30 yards in that first half from Caleb Williams. And the defense, let's not forget that they were missing 3 starters, and this has been talked about ad nauseum, but Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and TJ Edwards, it's a different defense without those 3 guys. So having said that, through 3 quarters of football, they played pretty darn well. And certainly that pick 6 was undeniably good. But it was unacceptable to let the Vikings get into the field goal range to end the half. And again, in a game where it's going to be close, that big mistake by Ben Johnson to not kick that field goal. They opted for that fourth and 3 pass. In the first half, Ross, what did you like? What didn't you like? And it kind of will lead on to the second half discussion here.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I liked was Caleb Williams, he had time to throw. The pass protection I thought was really solid. I thought as a whole, the offensive line was not bad. Darnell Wright had an amazing game on the right side. I thought Joe Tooney also was as good as advertised. We didn't even say Braxton Jones' name for most of
Right.
the evening, which is a good sign as well. Drew Dalman had a pedestrian game, and I thought Jonah Jackson was just absolutely terrible. And he was a weakness in the run game and in pass protection as well. And so that's going to be an issue, I think, going forward. And you have to wonder if the Bears looked like Luke Newman or something like that down the line. But I digress. But anyway, even with that, Caleb had time to throw in this game. He didn't take sacks in the first half. If it wasn't there or if he didn't see it, he did move out of the pocket and make some plays with his legs. They were able to get a touchdown at the beginning, which I thought was awesome, obviously. And he was able to reach down his checkdowns. Now, he did miss some opportunities down the field, and that
Yep.
seemed to be the theme throughout the evening. When you look past the first drive, and you look at that field goal Ben Johnson passed up, I didn't hate the call, to be honest with you. I think you're an offensive coach. I think you're trying to send a sign to your team. If they get an early touchdown there, that's a pretty big gut punch to the Vikings with a rookie quarterback who is struggling on the road. And you've got the first overall pick. And to be quite frank, Caleb Williams missed the throw. It was the right read. DJ Moore was there. He missed the throw. He has to hit that throw 10 out of 10 times. He's way too talented to not make that throw. And I think that's the overall theme that we saw from the evening with Caleb Williams. He just missed some throws, man. He missed some opportunities to just let it rip and hit the guy. I don't know what has happened with his accuracy when it gets to immediate and down the field, but he's got to fix that ASAP. And I think he's in his own head a little bit. I think he's thinking too much. And he just needs to let some of these rip a little bit. He had a check down pass, even on the first drive, that was fine. He got yards, but he missed Roman Dunze basically in one-on-one coverage, and he had his man beat for a touchdown. Those are things you just have to let it rip. Just let it rip. And maybe he's not fully comfortable yet in the offense. He probably has some jitters from last year, and as many times as he's been hit. I'm not out on Caleb Williams right now, but I don't feel really good after seeing what happened yesterday, because like I said, on that fourth down play, he has to let it rip, and he has to be able to hit DJ Moore on that play, and then they probably get a touchdown on that drive, and this is a different conversation. Yeah, go ahead.
Just it was a tough end, for that first half for Caleb. I feel like, just based on what you were talking about there, that missed fourth down conversion, and then just tough sledding to start the second half, right? Where the Vikings D line's no slouch, and Caleb Williams would stand in the pocket and deliver a strike here and there, but it was really sailing a lot of balls, and thankfully for that defensive pick six with the Sean Wright, who had the tough task of filling Jalen Johnson's shoes, stepped up and had that pick six from JJ McCarthy. Noah Sewell, guys you thought they would need to step up, really did. But against JJ McCarthy, you knew that defense had to continuously bring pressure and really play well, and they did. But again, this is all leading up to the fourth quarter, and all the I feel like the run game was just trash. Going back to the offense, just really never really had success besides some Caleb Williams scrambles and a couple 10-yard runs from DeAndre Swift. But the defense was just on the field too much. And you think of, we'll talk about those penalties in a little bit as well, but you just think that the defense really bailed the O out a lot. But then going into that fourth quarter, it was that holding call, which was not a holding call, where it was a pancake, whatever you want to call it, that everybody called out. It just led to a total collapse where the Bears allowed 21 points in that fourth quarter. The offense just, continually made mistakes and had 3-and-outs, missed opportunities. The penalties hampered the Bears, 12, I believe, on the game. Just bad, that Cairo Santos miss after that penalty, the phantom holding penalty, the Caleb Williams grounding call. You just felt like they're giving this game away, and we have seen this many times before. It just felt like not very different from last year in the least, when you were so dominant, and Adeo Adegbo played well, I think, too, in those bigger moments. But just you let J.J. McCarthy throw for his 2 touchdowns in the game and run for one in the fourth quarter was just very deflating and too little too late for the offense to do anything. And I mean, I put it when you think about blame, and there's a lot to unpack there. I certainly put it on the offense and Ben Johnson and the way that they came out and finished flat. It really, besides that opening drive, what did you see from this offense that you really liked? And you can take the garbage time touchdown to put them up to 24 points out of it, and then they had to get really uphill. They had to have a lot to go right if they got the ball back and went down the field, but they couldn't do it. So it's just too much of the same story, right, Ross? Where you're looking at Caleb Williams and everybody's preaching patience, but boy, just as deflating as any loss you saw last year, where the Bears give a game away against a big NFC North opponent like this.
It really is, and I hate to be that guy because I normally don't blame the officials for a game, but my goodness, that call on Darnell Wright, that holding call, was the backbreaker, and I think they just changed the whole trajectory of the game. If that play doesn't happen, the Bears, at bare minimum, are going to walk away with 3 points, right? And you hope they walk away with 7 points. I just don't think Minnesota was going to be able to bounce back from that hole if the Bears were able to score in that spot. And the fact that penalty happened, and granted, Cairo Santos still needs to kick a field goal. He was a massive problem last night, from his field goal kicking to not being able to kick the football out of the end zone on a 70-degree night in Chicago. That's also a huge problem, right? But I think that penalty really, really shook things up and changed the whole game. And from that point, the Vikings had a lot of momentum. They had a lot of confidence. J.J. McCarthy started cooking. And that defense, you can only hold a team down for so long, especially a KOC team. He's a good head coach. He's a good play caller. He started to dial some stuff up, and eventually, the back end of that defense just kind of fell apart a little bit. And J.J. McCarthy, give him some credit too. He made some throws. He made some plays. And they won the football game. And so, as much as the Bears lost it, I think the Vikings also really saddled down and won that football game as well. I mean, you talked about the good. I think the defensive line, for the most part, held up pretty well last night.
Yeah,
I think
Montez Sweat was all over the place.
Montez Sweat was good. You talked about Deo having a good game. I think I would like to see a little bit more penetration from Grady Jarrett. But even the linebacker Sewell, who was out there for TJ Edwards out there yesterday, he had a solid game. Tremaine Edmonds looked pretty decent too, even in coverage. And I think the secondary held up, given the fact that you were missing Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon. That Justin Jefferson over there, he had a pretty quiet game outside of the touchdown, of course, that he had. And hell of a play by Jonathan Owens too on that 2-point conversion to keep it in that 3-point game. The bad to me, I think this was very much a welcome to head coaching NFL experience for Ben Johnson. He didn't have a good feel for the game all night in terms of calling plays. Obviously, the run game was not working for him, and I think that was a big wrinkle in how he was trying to call the offense. But you look also the play that he challenged was a mistake. It was never going to get returned. In theory, you think the punch is a fumble, but the rule is, when that guy has a knee on the ground, that's just not coming back no matter what the circumstances are. And he owned up to it today. He said he let his sidelines talk him into it, even though the booth said don't challenge that. You lose a very, very crucial timeout that you wish you would have had after you scored that late touchdown. You tried to go 3 and out against those guys, and you still had the 2-minute warning as well. I also think that he made a mistake by. You got to know, Stacey King would tell us, KYP, right? Know your personnel. And Cairo Santos doesn't have quite that leg. It's only a 5-yard difference if you just kick it out of bounds and take the penalty. Take the penalty, keep the clock on the plus side of 2-minute warning, because you need that timeout. And if they would have had that 2-minute warning timeout and at least 2 timeouts because of the challenge play, then all of a sudden you give Caleb Williams a little bit more of an opportunity to go down the field and at least try for a field goal. I don't know what Santos does, but it's all hindsight at this point, right? They're 0-1. I think it's a teachable moment for everybody. There's some good. There's a lot of bad. I'm very curious to see how they bounce back. It doesn't get any easier. In fact, it gets a lot worse this week because now you got to go on the road in a hostile environment. Those guys do not like Ben Johnson these days in Detroit, as we know. And, oh, by the way, they're a little bit desperate too because they look like crap on Sunday as well. And so their backs are against the wall. and we'll see how they respond. I'm most curious to see how Ben Johnson responds as a play caller and what he's able to dial up. Another big thing, the pre-snap penalties, awful, 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 awful.
Real
So
bad.
you need to maybe change the cadence, go more to a silent count on the road in a hostile environment, and then obviously the big thing in Chicago right now. I know there's a good portion of people that are starting to get off the Caleb Williams bandwagon. I'm still on it, but he needs to start showing that he can make the easy throws. He's the Javi Baez of quarterbacks right now, right? Javi Baez will make 5 unbelievable plays over here, and then those like routine plays or the strikeouts over here, you're just like, what are you doing, man? Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's where we're at with Caleb right now. For as beautiful as that rollout and that rip was to Roman Dunze, he misses 4th and 3 to DJ Moore, which is a layup. JJ McCarthy would have made that throw. He needs to hit those throws.
Too often you've seen him or saw him yesterday make the same mistakes that you saw from last year, and it's the first game, so he kind of gets a pass in that regard. But you're also at home. There were a lot of layups. They're right there. It's not like they're double covered or he's throwing into those situations where it could be grounds for a turnover or it's in a really tight window. It's like you said, and everybody's defending this 4th and 3 call where they could have kicked the field goal because he was wide open and Ben Johnson made the right call. It's in that second half too, just the grounding call when he's just still making those mistakes where um, he's not getting rid of the ball quick enough or holding on to it too long for that matter. But as far as the phases are concerned, the defense just ran out of gas again because they were just, I think, run over at that point by Jordan Mason and company. And then that long, just the big chunk plays that really just turned the whole game on its head. And the Vikings rattled off those 21 points was, you feel like it's just unbelievable after what happened last year and how Eberflus was and that regime were able to give games away consistently. But this all goes back to the play and the personnel isn't that much different too. I mean, certainly they filled some holes on the offensive line. They added a couple skill position players. By the way, the rookies, not making an impact at all yesterday. The Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. Ozzie was on the bench. None of those several draft picks.
Shamar Turner
Shamar
didn't
Turner,
draft.
none of them really making a big difference. That can't happen. You need to see something out of your rookies. And that'll, again, you kind of get a pass for one game. But this home game, it's like you said, Ross, now you're looking ahead to the Lions. We'll talk about their game against the Packers, who look like now the Super Bowl favorite for some reason, based on just Micah Parsons going over there. And they certainly have animosity towards Ben Johnson and Ben Johnson probably also the same animosity towards them. And they miss him as a play caller already. But, you figure all the critiques of Caleb Williams has got to shut that out and restart fresh against this Lions team that is the defending, NFC North champions. And for good reason, he's got to get great quality practice reps in this week and figure out how to tighten up those throws and improve on those things that he should have improved upon already.
Yeah, Caleb needs to improve his confidence on the football field, and he needs to trust his talent. And he has the arm strength, he has the capability, he has the wherewithal to put the football where he needs to put it and get there with some velocity. He just needs to trust it and rip it. And a lot of times you can get in your own head a little bit too much. And I get it. You had a tough rookie season. And, about as tough as you can get. Head coach is fired. Offensive coordinator is fired. The interim coach is now the offensive coordinator and all. And you've been sacked almost the most amount of times from a rookie in general. And then you got this season coming up. There's a lot of pressure on you. There are a lot of people that talk about what you do off the field, right? And painting nails and things like that. And then, oh, by the way, we didn't even get to an article that came out over the weekend, which was a scathing article about Caleb Williams and Ryan Poles and the whole Bear situation. But it really painted Caleb as a kind of a spoiled brat who doesn't want to work. And you can't tell me he didn't at least hear about that going into a game like this. And, it probably affected him in some way. But you know what? You're a grown man now. You're in the NFL. Nobody cares. this is kind of where we are. You're going to have to shake it off. You're going to have to really pick yourself up off the ground and show that you're better than this. And hopefully the coaching staff will put him in a better position starting this week. And hopefully his teammates will rally around him and everybody will rally around each other. Because at the end of the day, as much as he is the most important player in this football team, he's not the only guy in that locker room. He's not the only guy in that locker room that had a bad night last night. We talked about, we talked about Jackson at right guard. We talked about Cairo Santos. We didn't talk about the fourth round punter who just can't. He consistently outkicks his coverage and gives up 20, 30 yards of field position every single time to the opposing team, right? I mean, Devin Duvernay had a couple of fair catches yesterday where he should have took it out. There are a bunch of people on that team that had a rough day yesterday. We didn't talk about the running back, DeAndre Swift, who, he seems like he's about a 2.5 yard per carry running back right now. He had one solid drive yesterday, I thought, in the second half. Outside of that, he was pretty pedestrian himself. So let's hope that everybody picks themselves up. I trust at the end of the day, I wavered a little bit on Caleb, but I'm still in. But I trust Ben Johnson. I trust that Ben Johnson is going to get in the lab, put the work in, and make this thing look a little bit better week over the week. And I know we are, as Bears fans, getting impatient, but we still have to give him a little bit of grace as he's got a big job ahead of him. And I think yesterday everybody found out, him included, this is going to be a little harder than we thought.
Yeah, the expectations for the season aside, you just look at that game yesterday, and it was just a team. Certainly, the 11 players on offense, they need to they need more reps. The practice, they need to individually look at what they can improve on. The things that you can immediately improve on is like 4 first half false starts by the Bears is terrible, and those penalties just add up, right? The 12 that were called for the game, over 100 yards. Maybe some not deserved, that holding call like we talked about, that eventually led to the Minnesota just comeback. But with Caleb Williams, we do have to preach patience here. I'm not of the mindset where you just go Tyson Bagent after, a couple games like this. He's kind of the ride or die guy. He is the first overall pick. This should be, by all accounts, a system that he thrives in any quarterback. If you put a JJ McCarthy or any other quarterback in there, you'd be curious to see how they would perform. But Caleb Williams it's all about his talent at this point. Let's see the talent to learn and to bounce back, which we've seen before, a little bit last year, but we're going to need to see more of that now when you're going into hostile territory against the Lions, who are definitely a little ticked off after being just beaten soundly by the Packers. I got no other notes really on that Bears Vikings game, but as far as this week goes, you just also trying to get healthy on the defensive side of things, hoping that Jalen Johnson, Kyle Gordon, TJ Edwards come back so you can have your full accountment. But I did like what I saw from Dennis Allen. It's just, again, they were on the field too much. But the defense surprised me in a lot of ways, I feel like.
100%. I mean, he had JJ McCarthy in a blender for most of that game. And like you said, they just started to be on the field a little bit too much, in that second half. The drives weren't finished. And you start looking, I mean, these guys are human too. They look at the offense and they can't finish what they're doing. And that kind of lets the air out of the balloon a little bit as a defender. And especially when the kicker keeps missing kicks. And now all of a sudden the defense is back on the field at the 40-yard line, at the 50-yard line. And special teams is giving up 30, 40 yards, So I expect them to bounce back in all 3 phases. Are they going to win the game on Sunday? I don't know. But
prediction at the end.
Yeah, you hope that it just looks cleaner than what it did. And again, you hit it on the head. This is new regime. This is new coaching staff. This is new installs of playbooks on both sides of the ball. And you don't have a lot of time in preseason to get this done. And training camp is what it is. And we heard some struggles out of training camp, but it's going at 50%. It's going at half speed, even with the physical stuff that they have. So essentially, this first half of the season, this first quarter of the season, these first 4 games, it's really a lot of feeling out for everybody. And so hopefully it looks better week after week. I just want to see growth, specifically out of the quarterback, out of the head coach, and out of that offense as a whole.
Yeah, you can't abandon the plan that is in place right now. There is, a good deal of youth there. The offensive line is going to take some tweaking. Jonah Jackson has to play better across the line. They got to play better and cut back on penalties, like we talked about. But with Caleb Williams, I'm curious, and Ben Johnson, what their conversation is going to be like this week about how they can improve and how they can beat the Lions, because they don't want to go in an 0-2 hole and then have to host a Cowboys team that looks a little bit better than everybody was expecting. And then perhaps being an 0-3 hole, it'd be completely different, a different story. But with the Lions, again, another NFC North rivalry. It's going to be loud over there. This week of preparation, definitely about staying healthy. DJ Moore, by the way, taking that big hit, it looked like avoiding any serious injury that we know of. But otherwise, offense, thankfully, came out unscathed. Caleb Williams was taking some tough hits as well. Get that ball out quicker. I would do some designed runs too, because you can see he wants to run. He's fine with that. If Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and guys like that and Jalen Hurts can teach you anything, it's like you don't have to shy away from that if that's a strength for your quarterback. So I would feel like if it comes down to being a closer game, I would certainly look into that.
100%, absolutely.
A short week
Short
for the
week.
Bears, as they got to travel to Detroit again in a Sunday noon game. Well, by the way, your shot, the NFL season is rolling. Every touchdown can bring you closer to payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props, or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. Detroit, 5.5-point favorites against the Bears. Maybe you like that right now. Certainly Baltimore, after that close loss to the Bills, they're 11.5-point favorites against the Browns on Sunday. Odds, of course, lines and odds subject to change. Anything else you like betting wise, Ross? What you got here? You called it last time with the anytime touchdown for Caleb Williams. Excuse me.
We hit that bet. Thanks for that. I also liked Roman Duze yesterday. I bet that one. He got a late touchdown there. I think if you're going to keep it Bears centric this week, I think this is a game where you get the tight ends a little bit more in action. Komet, Loveland. Komet had a beautiful catch over the middle yesterday that was kind of lost in the shuffle. I think that was his only catch of the game. Those guys have to get more involved. I would take Cole Komet plus 3 catches this weekend. And I would actually take the over as well on that Bears-Lions game. I think we're going to get some more points in this game. Week 2 in Detroit, indoors, I think we get some more points. And keeping it just NFC North-centric, I think these Packers are really good. And they get a Thursday night game coming up here. I like them a lot to cover the spread. I would keep rolling with the Packers right now until they show you that a team can beat them.
Right now, Bears,
Commanders, Packers,
Lions.
by the way, Thursday.
Commanders, Packers, Thursday Night Football. Bears, Lions over under 46.5. Again, lines and odds subject to change. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code GridironPod. That's code GridironPod to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket/terms. Limited time offer.
Now let's talk about the spit heard round the world. I will say, the NFL action lived up to the hype, and we'll talk about that Sunday nighter in a moment too, and live a little bit in the past before we look ahead to week 2. And another great slate, but but that was, I feel like Jalen Carter You got to my daughter like spit on my son's plate earlier. I was like, "Have you been watching the Eagles games?" And we just yeah, that was a pretty out of left field, but very funny after that. But Jalen Carter doing that was just disgraceful, and I feel like a big reason why Bears fans were so happy that the regime had passed on him originally because of these character issues. But what a game that turned out to be for the Cowboys when we're looking in a couple weeks here to the Bears host this Dallas Cowboys team. The run game looked a lot better than people thought it would. Certainly with Dak Prescott, they'll go as far as they can carry him. And you figure the way that they were set with Micah Parsons, like this trade just didn't need to happen. Jerry Jones really fumbling the bag. But the Eagles stayed the Eagles and were able to just be dominant, because of Jalen Hurts' play. And certainly adds to all the hype the hype with this Eagles team going forward.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they were actually. I mean, the Cowboys were actually in that game for quite a bit.
Sure.
I think the lightning weather situation that happened in the third quarter really put a wrench in the game. That game had about it was on pace to put up 80 points in the game, and then everybody just went to a grinding halt after that stoppage. The spit was absurd. I'm sorry. I think spitting on somebody is top two most disrespectful thing that you do to a person. Spitting and then like putting your feet on them, like just like kicking somebody or something like that. Like that's just so disgusting and disrespectful. And it came out today. He just received a fine. He didn't get suspended. I'm surprised he didn't get suspended for a game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But the commissioner said essentially the ejection served as the suspension because he got ejected within like 6 seconds of the game. And oh, by the way, you're spitting on a guy while your teammate is there, and he probably just tore his ACL. Like right. What are you doing?
All in poor taste, yes.
Yeah, Jalen Carter has all the talent in the world, but we knew going into the NFL, these were the kind of issues that he had. He wasn't able to keep his head on straight all the time. But the Cowboys had an opportunity to win that football game. Huge Miles Sanders fumble that kind of changed things around, and CeeDee Lamb with some crucial drops. And that can't happen if you're trying to be the defending champions. I still think the Eagles are the most complete team in the NFC. I think they will only get better as the season goes along. They just traded for Tank Bigsby. I think it was yesterday or today they traded for him because Will Shipley looks like he's going to miss some time now. So Bigsby is now your backup running back for Saquon Barkley. And they didn't even get A.J. Brown involved. And they still basically they didn't roll, but they were rolling until that weather delay hit on offense, and then everything came to a grinding halt. But that's what they do. They're a complete team. They're well coached, and they won a big game. And I feel like the Cowboys are going to be in a lot of those games. They're probably going to lose about 9-10 games this year, where it feels like they were really, really close. They are very similar to the Bears in that regard.
Neither quarterback in that game breaking over 200 yards, which is just wild. Jalen Hurts, we know what he can do on the ground, and not even really much to do with the tush push, but like you said, just not even having been any passing game. There's things that they can look forward to. Certainly the Cowboys side of things, how they can make some noise in that division potentially. And then the Brazil game looked like the Chiefs just got a little outplayed. Certainly losing Xavier Worthy earlier hurt them. Travis Kelce, besides just one touchdown, didn't do much. It was kind of a dud performance that just saved it. Hollywood Brown's going to have to do a lot until Rashee Rice comes back, and it's an older, just looking receiving core right now, just kind of putting Band-Aids where they need them while they prepare for a long season ahead of them, and everybody's still gunning in the AFC for the Chiefs and want to beat them. But outside of that Bucks Falcons game was a great one with Baker Mayfield picking right where he left off from last year. Bengals Browns was a close one, as we figured the Bengals would be who we thought they were. Colts coming out of nowhere with like 33 points on the Dolphins, and we're beginning to see like this Dolphins team just isn't as good as it was advertised. And Mike McDaniels and company, it's just real tough. And Tua can only do so much for him as loaded as they were. It looked like on offense. Surprising to see, like, not surprising, I should say, Geno Smith doing it. What he did with the Raiders was a great story. Cardinals beating the Saints just barely. It felt like it should have been a lot more lopsided than it was. The Steelers Jets game was wild, and we were as far as Bears fans watching it, you thought about Justin Fields and how he was performing, and really got a little bit of what if and nostalgia of what he stayed in a Bears uniform, what would happen. But Aaron Rodgers with 4 touchdowns there, and ultimately the win was huge for him. Commanders beating the brakes off Giants, but all leading into that Sunday afternoon slate where the 49ers were able to hold on. It was a healthy game for Christian McCaffrey, which was great. And Brock Purdy's a little banged up, but I think he should be playing this Sunday. And then Lions Packers, like we talked about, Ross, there's just Micah Parsons making his presence felt right away. Jordan Love doing his thing. And I feel like Green Bay as a whole, that defense is really solid, and a reason why they were like the 5th favorite to win the Super Bowl, according to sports books right now. What else did you like in that Sunday slate before we get to the Sunday nighter?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, the Sunday slate was a lot of these young quarterbacks. The talk right now is Caleb Williams because it was Monday Night Football. But if you look around the league, we actually saw a lot of young quarterbacks struggle on that Sunday. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. You start off with, that Falcons game. Michael Penix, I mean, he had the stats. He threw the ball over 40 times, but he missed a couple passes too. He had that football team in the game, that Atlanta team in the game. But to me, a couple of guys even looked worse than Caleb. I thought Drake May looked awful on Sunday. I was really surprised on how bad he looked. Same thing with Bo Nix. Bo Nix had a couple of interceptions, and their defense really propelled them. He looked really bad in that game as well. He threw the ball. He was 25 for 40 for 176 yards and a couple turnovers and 1 touchdown. I thought he struggled. Very surprising to also see CJ Stroud struggle, and he didn't have the best sophomore season last year. Now to start, his 3rd campaign, that they can only get 9 points up against the Rams. And you look at Nico Collins, he was non-existent in that football game. Bryce Young was another one, just looked awful all game long, right? And Tua was not that young anymore. He didn't look good. I didn't think Trevor Lawrence looked that good in the win as well. So the young guys struggled. And even some of the older guys, your Joe Burrows didn't set the world on fire either. Again, it's week 1. It's a lot of people are working out the kinks. They can't all be Ravens and Bills, which is actually, obviously what we want to talk about. That was the heavyweight fight of the evening.
Geno Smith throwing for 362 yards, though.
Awesome.
I didn't have that on my bingo card, but welcome to the Raiders, dude. That was incredible. But like you alluded to, the Bills Ravens game, we gotta have a Sunday nighter like that every week. I'd be happy because, man, did it have just everything from the get-go. And you knew that these two teams did not like each other. We knew it was going to be insane kind of going into it, but how insane, like the explosive plays from Lamar Jackson, from Zay Flowers, like Derrick Henry, Josh Allen, just going back and forth for a while. It was just, again, like a heavyweight bout. So cool. You could see why these two teams were heavily favored to win the Super Bowl. That lone turnover was the forced fumble on Derrick Henry in the second half, which is as rare as you think it would be, but just terrific quarterback play. 2 MVP front runners. The huge defensive plays, though, like I was talking about, that one by Oliver, which was nuts. The plays that slowed Josh Allen didn't do quite enough. Allen just on another level with his throws, such a weapon. But we heard today that the kid who pushed DeAndre Hopkins and Lamar Jackson is banned from every stadium and the Bills stadium now. That's what you get after that great. The only blemish on the DeAndre Hopkins one-handed grab. The game had everything, man, just nuts. And it was crazy to me that Buffalo, the only thing with Buffalo taking off the gas at the end there, wanting to end on a field goal in the home opener, I feel like they would have just said, all right, let's punch it in the end zone and walk out of here. Leave no doubt. But just incredible, like what was it, 41 to 40? Yeah, 41 to 40 final. Had everything, man.
It had everything. Buffalo puts up 22 points in the 4th quarter to get that win. And I think you're at the point now where you need to start treating Josh Allen like the boogeyman. Like you have to cut his head off, stab him in the heart, shoot him 7 times, and he's still going to Michael Myers you and get up and chase you around. I mean, this guy right now, he doesn't have the hardware yet in terms of Super Bowl, but he's playing at a higher level right now than Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, who who has had the quarterback belt, I think, for the better half of 5+ years now. But I think Josh Allen is the number one guy at this point. And, speaking to your point, when you have a guy like that on the opposite side of the field and you're in his stadium and you know what he can do, and you're a coach like John Harbaugh and you already have over 40 points on the board, you got to go for the jugular. You got to go for the win, go for that 4th down. If you get that ball game's over. He doesn't get that football back. You have to keep that guy on the sidelines. So to me, if I got one of those boogeyman 2 and Lamar Jackson, I'm going for the win every single time I've got the opportunity. I'm going to trust Lamar to make a play with his legs or his arm, and I'm keeping Josh Allen on the sidelines there. But awesome game. Let's hope that we can see it again at some point in January, because that would be a lot of fun. I think those are the 2 best teams in the AFC at this point. And so I think both those teams are going to win 11, 12+ games. And you can sign me up again for another AFC championship that looks a lot like that.
No doubt about it. And you're just talking about just how many Hall of Famers you're watching, like future Hall of Famers watching in the moment. You feel like both quarterbacks are definitely on the way to that sort of legacy. And then you see Derrick Henry just doing his Derrick Henry things when he had a over 100 yards in that first half, just able to break off. In the videos of him training, you just see why he's able to do the things he does at 31. Most running backs really fall off, but he's just on another level. Incredible. Leading into week 2, we got the Thursday nighter, Commanders and Packers, which could be a little spicy with Jaden Daniels playing the Packers in Lambeau. And then, the rematch from the Super Bowl, everybody has certainly got their eyes on in the 325 game. Eagles at Chiefs and Falcons Vikings, pretty decent there. And then we get our Monday night doubleheader a week late too as well. But there's not, I don't know, Seahawks Steelers got a little juice in it. Don't see anything crazy else on this slate. What else are you looking forward to in week 2, Ross? Besides the quarterback improving a bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty mundane week. Dallas, New York is a little interesting. Those are 2 teams that are kind of they're very similar to each other, where they're both subpar, but they were once the kings of that division. And it's going to be interesting to see how is Russell Wilson going to be able to hold on to this job after week 2. Because if that Giants team isn't going to be able to score points and he looks like he did on Sunday, what are you waiting for? You're prolonging the inevitable. You got to start Jackson Dart at some point. And so, that's going to be, coming soon. I think 2 also very desperate teams, New England and Miami, especially Miami. What are they going to do? They're at home. They're favored against the Patriots. I think the Patriots looked awful, but Miami looked a lot worse. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, because Mike McDaniel he's probably in the driver's seat right now for first coach fired. It looks like he's losing control of that situation by the day. Now Tyreek Hill is up for another domestic violence situation. It's just a mess there right now in Miami.
In Miami.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of underrated games, Danny Dimes at home against Denver could be kind of fun. If Shane Steichen has reinvigorated Danny Dimes, I think that could be a fun game as one of the best defenses in the NFL goes to Indy to see if they can slow him down. I think Seattle and Pittsburgh can just be a slugfest, like just punch him out. 12-9 kind of football game, just ugly and dirty, sloppy game with 2 teams just kind of slugging on each other. And then I think the Sunday night game is actually pretty fun as well. Sunday night game, which is the Falcons and going to Minnesota. Can J.J. McCarthy keep it going for another week? He's got his first home game coming up. And can they slow down that fairly high-powered Atlanta offense? Penix is going to sling the ball all over the field. Drake London is a really, really fun young receiver. I think they need to use Bijan Robinson a lot more than they did on Sunday. And I'm not just saying that as a Bijan Robinson fantasy owner, but he's one of the best running backs in the league. And he had, I think it was like less than 10 carries this past Sunday in their loss against the Buccaneers. You got to use that guy in the running game and also in the passing game as well. So it's going to be some fun games. I'm happy to see the Bears back on a noon spot, though. Listen, these primetime games,
Primetime games, they are not primetime yet. Not quite ready for primetime.
they're not primetime yet. You get a lackluster ending. It's like 10:40 at night. You're kind of tired, but you're still kind of pissed off and amped up from that game. And it just ruins your whole next day. So
At least you weren't in Soldier Field. I know a few people.
I know a few people that didn't get home until after 1 o'clock in the morning, after you kind of get out of there and navigate back to your house. So thankfully we get another noon game for the Bears, and I'm excited. It should be a fun slate. Knock on wood, we didn't see a ton of big name injuries in week 1, 2, which is always good. I know George Kittle's out for a couple of weeks
on IR.
Yeah, with the hamstring injury. I know Brock Purdy is nursing a toe injury, but for the most part, a lot of guys came out relatively unscathed, which is always what we want. We don't, this is a fun league. We don't want to see our stars get hurt. We want to see these guys out there performing week after week. So hopefully that trend continues this week as well.
It's the no fun league, Ross. Get it right. But there's a lot of divisional matchups in this weekend. You figure with the Browns and the Ravens, even though the Browns are just terrible, you kind of throw out records in that case and figure they throw everything they can at the Ravens, Bills, Jets. But certainly you're talking about best games or sneaky good games. Chargers, Raiders both coming off wins. With Geno Smith with that huge performance, and then Justin Herbert also great. So that's in Vegas. That'll be a fun one. As we'll see if we'll see if CJ Stroud can improve on last year, because it was a dud of a start for him for sure. But they get their first home game against the Bucs on Monday night. It's back, baby. And yeah, the star running backs you expected kind of played the way, outside of like Jahmyr Gibbs looking great, like Saquon back where he belongs. Certainly Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey healthy, Bijan Robinson, even though he didn't have a great day on the ground, he can still get 9 catches for 90 some yards.
Saquon, of course, is still doing Saquon things. I thought Chase Brown looked really awesome on Sunday as well. He was a bright spot for the Bengals as they couldn't really get their passing game going, but he had a good game too.
No question. And then in Bulls news, Josh Giddey getting that 4-year, $100 million deal. I think someone on Twitter said like the deal that no one was waiting on for the break-even. Like Josh Giddey just getting overpaid like so many other NBA players out there. But good for the Aussie getting the bag, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about the Clips. How was Clips concert?
So Clips was incredible. I was at the Salt Shed in our fair city of Chicago, which the Salt Shed just
cool venue.
Such a good venue. It has everything you want. Now that they got the Goose Island pub there. They have the food truck corral in there. They got huge bars. They have just beer only things if you're looking for that. It was moved to fairgrounds, so there was a lot of breathing room. It was a perfect night. It had the big full moon out there over the river. They also have the treetop lounge, which is really nice, and then the arcade next door. So literally just something for everybody. But the show itself, it was like Earth Gang kind of hyped them up, who's also great, as kind of ties to that Dreamville label with J. Cole and company. But they are legendary. They certainly, you think like 20 years after, that, and maybe, about 20 years from like Lord Willin' in that time, something like that. Or at least approaching it at this point, to come out with, as Pusha T said repeatedly, album of the year, not just rap album of the year. He's always gonna push that on people, as is his way. But you think of the catalog that they have and the hits that they have on this album. They just played a really flawless show, I feel like, with the set, and they went from their hits on the album to What Happened to That Boy, and all sorts of their grind and all the things that made them real popular in the 2000s. The visuals were really great. I thought it was a lot of like Birds That Sing, just a lot of family photos, and it was interesting. Their sort of what do you call it? Just their showmanship, as far as like you'd think they're like done, and I'm like, after What Happened to That Boy, I could be done. But then they come back out and like a different, entrance, and do Mike Tyson blow to the face. So it was very up and down. It was great to the roller coaster vibe of it, and played like a 3-song encore. Just a perfect show. But a great show on a Monday night, that's for sure, over the Bears.
Yes, yes, that's. I'm sure that was the bright spot in Chicago last night over what happened at Soldier Field. It's good for those guys. They're on a hell of a run right now. I'm pretty sure it's going to end up with them winning a Grammy and probably multiple Grammys for this album. They deserve it. The fact that those two guys are in their 50s, they look flawless. They're in shape and
They look great. They look just
skin
as good
looks
as they did back
good. Yeah, it's like enunciating every word still, and it's like yes, good. I'm happy that. Not only them, but as a whole, a lot of our hip hop legacy acts are getting that second life. And as somebody going to turn 44 here in exactly 2 weeks from now, I appreciate the old guys getting some love. We're getting the Mobb Deep album, I think, either this Friday or next Friday. Let's go.
With Alchemist, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Make no mistake. And looking at the crowd, this is dad rap. This is what I said. The answer. What do they call? I don't know what the kids call the rock. That's like classic rock. They don't call it dad rock. They call it trash rock or something like that. But with Clips, as far as they're concerned, I was like, yeah, this is dad rap at this point. But I'm in. I loved it, and there were so many people, around who knew just every word to their song. Younger, older.
Mhm.
Just their impact on the culture can't be understated. So such a fun time.
Love it. Love it.
Awesome, man. We got to wrap it up. We are out of show. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening in. If you've missed any of this show, of course, we are on YouTube on the Second City Gridiron channel, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your audio media. Remember to like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. I'm at The Real Evan Mack. Ross is at Ross Read. Follow at Second City Gridiron for programming notes and all the news as we go through this Bears season and beyond.
Prediction?
Ed?
Prediction for Sunday?
Prediction is pain, of course. The Bears, 5.5. I feel like Lions didn't play particularly well. I do feel like it's a touchdown or a field goal game. I'm saying the Bears put up another sort of, we'll say a 20-point game to Detroit, putting up 30. 30-20 Lions.
30-20. I got Detroit. Okay. I got the Bears covering, but just barely losing that game. I got the Lions 25, the Bears 20.
0-2. Oh boy.
The Cowboys coming down. Could be having 2 0-2 teams battling it out on Soldier Field with Tom Brady on the call.
That's not great. Tom Brady's the only bright spot there. But for now, we say deuces. Thanks to everybody for watching. Have a great week out there. Be good to each other. So long.
Peace.